Chapter 11. Evangeline! Jacqueline throws herself on my bed. I looked for you all last night, but I couldn't find you. I squint through my sleep-filled eyes, surprised I slept at all with the previous day's events. Good morning. I shovel out the words with a groggy voice. Ew, you sound like a man. She reclines on her side, propping herself up with her elbow. I want to know details. I yawn and stretch out my arms before sitting up. Dr. Bourdin had me work late last night. That's all. Then Liam's unique eyes pop into my mind, and I think for a moment I can still smell his scent. But you're smiling weirdly. That's not an office grin. That's an imaginary friend grin. Huh. I deflect. I'm just mirroring the grin on your face. I assume you had a great time yesterday. Jacqueline rolls to her back with both arms behind her head. We rocked it. I was on Ethan's team, and we totally won by 5. And not only that, but 3 of the board members came to watch. 3! She squeals. They have to notice how perfect Ethan and I would be together. I'm sure they do, I say confidently. The one positive of Caroline's injury is that she's prevented from social outings with Ethan while healing. That'll secure Jacqueline's future with him more if it hasn't been decided already. Maybe that's who the doctor was talking about on the call. Caroline, not me. She's been at the clinic for a couple of days now. I wouldn't doubt he has seen her true personality for once. From what I've overheard the nurses sharing, she hasn't been hiding it, apparently believing patient status gives her grace to act more demanding. Since the doctor is part of the board, he could have reported those stories back to the other officials, leading to last-minute futures decisions. But if they change her pairing, it will affect someone else, too. Either the men she was supposed to be paired with will now be unpaired, or someone else's original pairing will be switched out. That's exactly like Caroline. Everything she does has a negative consequence on someone else, I swear. Or maybe they decided not to pair her. They wouldn't do that to Caroline, would they? As mean as she is, I still wouldn't wish for her be unpaired. She wouldn't be able to handle it. She needs people, their attention, their company. Unpaired would send her into respite early. Earth to Evangeline! Jacqueline is snapping her fingers in front of my face. I return to reality. You have been going off into that mind of yours so much more lately. I would ask if it's about the future ceremony. She exaggeratedly pauses, hoping I will confirm it. When I don't, she continues. But don't think about it. They've been watching us for years. They know what's good for us. And you're by far one of the smartest ones. And you're pretty, so there's no way they won't pair you. Jacqueline and her unyielding faith in a good future. She doesn't doubt. She doesn't distrust. She always knows things will occur as they should. If only I could be that sure. All of this would be much easier to handle. Thanks, Jacqueline. I refrain from saying anything else related to my future. She doesn't know the thoughts in my head or how sometimes I picture myself as a frozen lake with a bubbling volcano deep underneath, the pressure steadily building, slowly melting the ice and preparing for an eruption. It's crazy. This is our last day of being sweet mates. 18 years! It's always been you and me. We won't ever step into the level 17 home again or any of the houses other than... She stops, as much as she wants to say, paired house. There's no guarantee that the unpaired won't happen. For a moment, as I watch her eyes flicker down, I wonder if despite all that she said earlier, there's a thought in her mind, no matter how small, that I may end up unpaired after all. Outside of recent interactions, I haven't been one to go out of my way to talk to the boys in our level. Other than Jacqueline, I don't speak with many of the other girls either, unless I have to. I stick with my own thoughts, my books, and Gavin, which of course no one knows about. Or I talk to older people in Impetus, like Mr. Frank. The unknown truth has always haunted me, and I've spent more energy striving to uncover that than focusing on my future. Everyone else has played their cards right. It's safe to say I'm probably the one in my level the board is least able to pin into a specific category. Although our class is a rarity with an even number of girls and boys, there is not a guarantee that everyone will be paired. Unpaired people are labeled during every ceremony. It's strategic by design and maintains a functioning impetus, so all roles are carefully trained for and filled. I believe being an unpaired isn't as bad as people imply. There are unpaired people throughout the community, like Mr. Frank, who I enjoy talking with. However, that route would forever split Jacqueline and me. The paired and unpaired are on different societal tracks. They don't spend time together, and rarely acknowledge one another unless forced to do so. The partners, groups mantra cemented into our brains in levels 0 through 17 transitions to paired, unpaired, unpaired after graduation. The unpaired will take over positions to keep the levels functioning. Teachers, roommates, monitors, cafeteria workers, maintenance workers, and janitors. Sometimes the unpaired tend the community lawns and plants like Mr. Frank. Those are uncommon jobs, highly sought after as an unpaired because of the outside freedom. A few specific, more prestigious positions are filled by the unpaired, such as Miss K's museum director role, but usually reserved for those that transition into the unpaired later in life due to unfortunate circumstances. A select group of esteemed unpaired are substitutes for all the critical paired roles to provide assistance in specific circumstances. The month of September is a highlight since the pairings stop working to focus on procreation. They get 1 month a year to be successful. Because of this, it is known to be the favorite month among the unpaired. It's the one time a year that the unpaired are deemed essential to the community, since the pairs are confined to their homes, forced to adhere to even stricter food and exercise schedules, with a goal to reproduce. Being unpaired is more fitting for my personality. I relate to those roles the most. But what rational person wants that? We aren't supposed to. They spend the first 18 years of our lives conditioning us to strive for a paired life. Yet we're supposed to merely accept unpaired if the board determines that life for us in the end. That's not right. There's something supremely wrong with that system. Anyway, I want to spend time with you at the park for old memories. I also need to be around Ethan, though. I'm sure it's too late for the Elders Board to make changes to the decisions, but I have to try. Not a problem. I completely understand. It's a perfect plan, because once Ethan steals Jacqueline's focus, I can sneak off to see Gavin. The future ceremony will have the entire community distracted with the work that needs to be done. This time, there should be no barriers. Laughter rings out from the tables level 17 students populate. Levels 14 through 16 students observe and analyze us, realizing that this moment, this last day in any level housing or cafeteria, is a milestone. We spend our entire lives up to this point, wondering what our future will be like, assuming the Elders Board members are watching our actions, hoping they see ones that may sway our future in the direction we desire. All these years, it's been a game believing we can emphasize certain acts to influence Impetus's decisions, as if we hold that power, except me. I watched everyone else's story unfold, but missed out on mine. And now, someone else will determine the rest of it. Gavin's question repeats in my head. What do you want? It was always him I wanted to be around, and he doesn't even realize it. But if there were a man like Liam in my level, maybe I would hope for the paired future. Maybe I could stay in Impetus after all. I want to see those goosebumps again. For the first time, I understand why Jacqueline is set on being paired with Ethan. Someone else in Impetus finally seized my attention, like Ethan stole hers. I sit through breakfast, quieter than my other level mates, barely listening to the flowing conversations. Someone will occasionally turn to me, searching for confirmation on what they said. My thoughts are elsewhere, but I oblige to whatever sort of noise they need me to make, whether a grunt or a laugh. As soon as everyone finishes eating, the Level 17 group swarms the door with plans to spend our last day together at the park. We sit in a circle, 19 of us together for the final day, before being introduced as the new generation in front of all of Impetus tomorrow. There's something pleasant about this moment. Solidarity in the awareness that our lives will virtually change overnight. Adeline makes sure to say, I will be spending the rest of the day with Caroline, so let's pretend she's with us now too. Then she tells Brian to make room as though Caroline is physically sitting between them. He pointedly contorts his face, which garners giggles from other girls in the group, but reluctantly obeys. Despite her ode to Caroline a few times during our group bond, Adeline and I make eye contact and smile at each other. That hasn't happened in 13 years. It only confirms Caroline isn't here despite Adeline's attempts at pretending she is. There's no way she'd be caught smiling at me otherwise. We reminisce on old memories. Soon after, the group breaks into smaller conversations. Damien wants to get a football game going, and Jacqueline immediately stands up to join. I fall to the back and wait for everyone to be distracted. After a few moments, I mumble an excuse that I forgot something at the home. No one notices as I make my way to the clinic. I detour to the back of the building, using the shadows for a cloak. As I sneak to the thickets and push through to the other side of the wall, I stop. Branches crack and footsteps crunch on leaves, too close to where I stand. Once the noise moves further away, I leave the protection of the thickets and inch out to the opening, pausing after every step to listen for more signs of someone being nearby. Leaning against a tree, I stall, unbreathing. The leaves are humming from the light breeze, but everything else is motionless. Until my peripheral vision catches the sight of a hand reaching to grab my shoulder. It sternly flips me around before I can trigger my body to fight in response.